There are some of God's promises that fall into that category of too good to be true. You know, the ones where it's like, that would be amazing, God, but really? In fact, this particular one, my whole life I thought that would be amazing, but there's no way. But then once I really understood, I got that deeper revelation, that deeper understanding of what God was saying, I realized not only is it not a fairy tale, but it's actually an expectation from God. It's a mandate. And it's one of those kind of mandates that once we understand it, if we will embrace it, it's the difference maker. It's the one that separates those who become exceptional from the average. So today, we're exploring in Psalms 1 when God says that all that we do would prosper, understanding what God is saying and realizing it's a promise that carries His expectation and His mandate for you and I. So Psalms 1 does say that when we meditate on His Word, when we invest ourselves in Him, that we would be like a tree planted by rivers of water, and that we would bear fruit in season, our leaf wouldn't wither, and that all that we do would prosper. Now, again, superficially, it just seems too good to be true. How could it be that everything I do would succeed? Well, first, we have to clarify what it means to succeed and to prosper. See, remember, we bear fruit in season. There are appointed times when we bear fruit. And the fruit is the evidence of our success. The fruit is the evidence of our prospering, but it's not the success and the prospering itself. So we see the evidence at the appropriate times. But so often we equate the fruit with success and prospering. But what God says is all that we do would prosper. That word prosper literally means to continually advance, to continually push forward. And once we really get a deep understanding that, we come to the realization it's not about circumstances. So often we judge things by the circumstances. And so often we let that potentially derail us from God's ultimate plan. But what it's really saying is in spite of circumstances that appear contrary to us advancing and prospering, what do? We continue to push forward. Those seasons when it seems like we're held back, we're stuck, whatever it may be, the mandate is to continue to push forward. Now, it's entirely appropriate when we're not seeing evidence of the progress. It's entirely appropriate to, while we're continuing to push forward, not stopping, but while we're doing that, it's entirely appropriate to seek God and potentially get clarification, new direction, new instructions, whatever it may be. But we continue to push forward. And there are times when we don't get new direction. And in absence of new instructions, the old instructions stand. We continue to push. Because during those seasons, God is building that greater strength, that we're being delayed, not denied, because God is at work building us up so that we can truly handle that greater success, that greater prospering, greater fruit, that the weight of that extra fruit, that greater fruit, wouldn't bring us down. That we come to the realization that our mandate is to continue to push forward regardless of what the evidence looks like, regardless of the circumstances. And that's that foundation, that expectation, that mandate that, again, separates those who become exceptional from the average, the mundane. And then another note, understanding our desires. So we're pushing forward in those things that are in our heart. And so often, what I see is people begin to question, yep, but is that God's desire? And remember, one of the things you'll find, the more we invest ourselves in God, the more we spend time, invest ourselves in that relationship with Him, what you will find is greater clarity that those desires He has put in your heart are truly from Him and that you can rely on them. That when we're in those seasons when it doesn't seem like we're moving forward, it doesn't seem like we're progressing, we're prospering, that those desires are genuinely from Him. And that gives us the confidence that we can continue to push forward, that we wouldn't fall into that confusion of, is it from God? That we would have that boldness to, again, continue to advance. That as we delight ourselves in Him, He gives us the desires of heart. What that means is He puts the desires in us, and then He gives us the ability to obtain, to achieve, to succeed, to prosper. So all that we do would prosper is both a promise and an expectation, and it is a mandate from God. So the challenge is to understand that and determine for yourself, will you accept that as a mandate? Will you accept that as a foundation stone to build on? To recognize that no matter what it looks like, no matter the circumstances, your mandate, your challenge is to continue to push forward and allow God to produce the fruit in the appropriate season.